Welcome to Scoreboard, the podcast that explores how athletes, both current and retired, define success beyond the game. Each episode dives into the mindset, financial decisions, and career choices that shape their personal scoreboard, whether they're still in the arena or transitioning to life after sport. From victories to challenges, we reveal how athletes take charge of their own paths and decide what truly matters on their scoreboard of life. I'm your host, Chris Titley, and welcome to Scoreboard. Hi, it's Chris Titley here, and on this week's episode of Scoreboard, I'm joined by Jarryd Lyons. Jarryd, thank you so much for being part of this series.
No, thanks for having me, Chris.
Jarryd, 2024, I'm going to start with that. How's 2024 been for you?
Yeah, I guess it was a bit of a whirlwind year in the end. Sort of football, I knew it was coming to an end, so I was looking to life outside of football, but at the same time it was a really exciting year with the footy club, and obviously the team was going really well. Both teams as well, which was good, the VFL and the AFL. So I really enjoyed my year, and got to the end and got to do the parade in front of home fans, which was really nice, and they were very welcoming and made it a really special day with the family. So yeah, overall it was, it might look from the outside it was a tough year, but I had a really good time, and I think I picked the right time to finish up.
Yeah, just on that, why do you think it was the right time?
Oh, just talking with people and obviously speaking with Fags and things like that sometimes it's easy to go an extra year, but then it ends up being a tougher year. And I think a lot of people said that if you're a year early, it's actually better than being a year late. So I don't think there's ever a right time, but 14 years in the system and only playing a couple of games this year, and it was probably going to be the same next year. So it was the right time to step away and let some young fellas come through and enjoy their footy.
Can I ask you about your relationship with AFL, if you want to talk about that and whether that's changed over the last 14 years or so?
In a way, it starts off as a young kid just trying to play one game. I reckon it's just one game. That's all you want to chase.
And that was the dream?
Yeah. As a pick 61 in the draft, one game was fantastic. I didn't get it in my first year, so I was always striving for that one game, and it came in the second year where I really started to play some good footy at Adelaide, and got an opportunity, and that one became 3 in a row, and that was it for that year. I think that was 2012, and 3 was fantastic. I got to call myself an AFL player because, I mean, those high picks and stuff, they're obviously got different goals to the guys that scrape in and aren't expected to do too well or play too long. So yeah, that was my second year, and then third year I played 9 games, and then I think it was like 10, and then 12, and then 15, and then 20, and that's when I really felt like an AFL player and felt like I belonged in the system. And it goes as different levels. Like then you become respected, and then because you've got to earn the respect as well. So it's been a crazy career, but I owe the game owes me nothing in a way. I've 14 years in the AFL system when the average career is 4. I've been very happy.
194 games now, looking back. How do you feel?
Yeah, I'm in a way proud. I never did it the easy way. I always fought and scrapped every inch to get every game I had, and I played every game like it was my last. And especially coming to Brisbane was tough to move after just a couple of years on the Gold Coast, and I felt like I had unfinished business in a way, but I knew there was an opportunity coming up here, and they sold it to me as an opportunity. I guess it was the best decision I've ever made coming to Brisbane. And to play 100 games here and have that father-son branding now that my son's 5 years old and he's starting to love his footy, that's probably something I'm proud of the most.
Just on that, the move from Adelaide to Queensland, how big was that for you?
Yeah, I guess I nearly pulled the trigger a couple of times before that, and then sort of things fell away, and I probably didn't have the full, commitment to move. It takes a couple of times sometimes. You sort of look around and you back yourself in again, and I think that was after my 4th year. It was either leave or stay for another couple. Got 2 more years and played, I think that second year, so my 6th year, I played 20 odd games, played in 2 finals with Adelaide, and started to play really good footy. And I guess I had a bit more currency and a bit more pull to leave, and 3 more years at the Suns gave me 9 years in the system was how I was looking at it. And I think it was the right time, because if you leave after just playing a few games and you're on the fringe and stuff, it can be a bit different. But I'd played some solid football and I was really happy with where my footy was at. So it was a good time to leave, and in the end it was a sliding doors moment that's turned into a really nice career.
I've chatted to a number of people about resilience, and obviously a pretty resilient person. I want to go to 2015 now, where you had a bit of a freak accident with a snake. Can you talk about that and
not
how
quite
that,
a snake, a spider.
A spider, the spider.
No,
that's
it
right.
was a snake
Close.
that got me, mate. Yeah.
True, a spider.
Yeah,
do you want to talk about that and sort of out of left field, something happens that's kind of potentially derails your progress?
Yeah, it was. I think it was sort of the start of pre-season, so sometime in November, and I've got a few photos if you actually want to see.
Yeah, we'll chuck them on the socials after.
It's you might have to put a warning because it's pretty gory, but
right.
Yeah, I think it was just a small. There was a lot of. I was living in an old house. There was a lot of whitetails and spiders around, and I woke up with a bit of a bite one day, and it progressively got worse and worse. And people prod fingers at it when you're at a football club and think it's an ingrown hair and things like that. And it got worse and worse again, and I had to go home one day after about a week. Laid on the couch, fell asleep, woke up, went to stand and couldn't put any weight on my right leg. And I looked down and it was twice the size of what it normally would be. And there was sort of red infection marks coming up my leg. And I thought, geez, I better go to the hospital here because it doesn't look great. I called the club doctor. He's
doesn't feel right. Yeah.
Go straight to emergency. And I got to emergency. There was no car parks. My wife dropped me off. So I'm out the front, so I had to get out, hop into emergency on one foot, get in there, and they're like, oh, gee, that doesn't look great. Jump in here quickly, gave me 2 endone because I was in a hell of a lot of pain.
Yep.
I'm laying on the bed, the doctor comes in, has a look after a bit, and it was getting worse. There's photos where it's starting to crawl right up my leg and my lymph nodes are starting to inflame and all the way up into my armpits, and they're like, oh, we're going to admit you now. I think you need a severe case of antibiotics quickly. So hospital was just up the road. They took me in there. I went in, say it was a Wednesday, and I thought, this will be a couple of days and it'll blow over.
Be training soon.
It was during a training week, a pre-season, which is really important.
Yep.
Went in, actually might have even been a Monday. Went in, got it all sort of done, and they go, yeah, this looks pretty bad. We're going to take your bloods. We'll give you some antibiotics now just to get you started. They do that. Comes back, golden staph, which is quite a severe staph infection, and they said, you're going to be on a drip now at IV antibiotics every 6 hours for could be up to a week. I was like, pardon, a week?
And I was like,
I was only in my 4th or 5th year establishing myself as a player, and basically lay in bed for a week. And it didn't really matter because I couldn't walk. So I've sort of laid there every 6 hours. So 12 o'clock at night, bang, they come in, needle in the arm. 6 a.m, bang, come in, needle in the arm. By the end of it, all my veins had been needled.
Can't really sleep or get any continuity.
I was trying to find a new vein I've got on the top. And
far out. Yeah.
I think we ended up doing a couple in the top of my arm and things like that. And eventually the bubble on my leg started to get bigger and bigger and burst in the middle of the night. And there's photos of all this blood.
They won't be going on social media.
We'll just keep that, and then, so it finally burst and I was able to actually walk around. So that was by day 5 or 6, but they still wanted to keep me in for a couple more. So they'll let me walk out in the street, go get a coffee, go have lunch and stuff. But I'd have to come back and be there on every 6 hours. So finished the week's worth and had a beautiful scar. If anyone sees, about that big on my leg for a long time, which is kind of gone now. But it was a whirlwind week. I never really had any standard injuries, but I've had some strange ones like that. And at one stage I'd damaged my voice box and lost my voice for 6 to 8 weeks. Like I literally couldn't speak in a room unless it was completely silent and talking.
And the cause of that?
No idea in the end. It was just either a cold.
Concert that you went to?
It was just a cold or something that I wasn't speaking properly and damaged my vocal cords. I had to go and see a vocal coach. And
it's pretty hard to play footy without your voice.
Well, this was in 2016 when I was in the AFL side playing every week. So we'd get to a centre bounce and I'd pretty much have to have all the Scotty Thompson, Sam Jacobs, all these guys come in and I'd have to whisper to them what we want because I couldn't speak at all. Just had to wave my hands around. So
I'm going to ask a question on that. I went to the 23 grand final and obviously watched this year and whatnot, but the noise when it comes into AFL, and particularly in finals, goes up a notch. How do players communicate with each other? Is it something which you talk about that you can't actually sort of yell because maybe the noise, and sometimes the refs whistle as well, umpires whistle, you can't hear? Is it something that players think about?
The hardest part is the different grounds. So if you are talking about the Gabba, and that 35,000 feels like 200,000 if you compare it to the MCG, because everyone's a lot closer and the noise seems to be more centralised into the ground. So it's actually, I find the Gabba is a lot harder to talk than it would be at the MCG on grand final.
So without a voice playing at the Gabba is not bad.
Yeah, well, I was at Adelaide Oval at this point in time,
yeah.
which is actually all right because of the open stadium as well, so the noise filters out. So I've found the Gabba probably to be, and I guess Marvel in a way, but I haven't played in front of probably a packed crowd at Marvel, other than maybe a Collingwood game. But I find the Gabba is the loudest because of how tight it is, but how many fans we've been getting in there over the last 4 or 5 years, which has been fantastic. And those finals against, say, Richmond or
Carlton,
things like that, they're the hardest ones to talk in front of. Because you go back out to grand final day last year, and I can still vividly remember you can actually block the crowd out quite well, and that was 100,000 and Collingwood fans too. You can hear a lot better, well, not say a lot better, but better on grand final day than you can at the Gabba in front of 35,000. So it's quite fun.
Yeah, is that a talent you've built up over time, you reckon?
What's that?
Blocking out the crowd.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of players would say the same thing after a long period of time, that once you're on that field, you can't hear anything. Like, unless you get to the boundary.
Can you hear your mates sort of go?
You can hear your teammates because that's what you're attuned to. But otherwise, you sort of have an innate ability once you've played a lot of footy that the crowd noise becomes irrelevant until you get to the bench and you can actually relax, and then you can hear people yelling over the bench, which as a sub I used to get a lot. So you take in what you want, but yeah, it is. You get used to it, I would say.
Touching on the Lions over the last 6 years, I think you made your debut at 19?
2019.
2019, the period that you've been there, which has been 5 years? 6 years. 6 years, sorry. 6 seasons. Has been the 6 seasons where they've gone from not being in the 8 to being a dominant team. Can you talk about the group, the legacy that you think that can build?
Yeah, I think when I got there, I was probably the last of that group to get in 2019, which was Lockie Neal, Link McCarthy, myself, possibly Marcus.
Opened up against West Coast that year against the Premiers.
And all three of us had. So I knew Lockie because I played with him at Glenelg, and sort of had a bit to do with Link as well. And I guess when we got there, there wasn't a huge change other than us three coming in, but there was a lot of young footballers that were getting, I guess, experience, but really good players like the Hugh McCluggers, Jared Berry. I think Cam Rayner was there. A couple of other young guys. Mixed them with Harris Andrews was probably still young back then as well. Yep. And you mixed him in with a couple of older guys.
So he's still young, by the way.
I know, young in football terms, I guess. I was 26 or 27 at the time then. We all just, I don't know, we just gelled together really well. I think the recruiting staff, Dom and that, just obviously picked a couple of the right players to come in and play a role, and so certain players left. And that pre-season was incredible. We trained hard. We had a good group. Guys like Dane, Zorko and that really took it to another level that year, and it all just clicked. I think we finished second. We won 16, 17 games for the year.
Yep.
Obviously bowed out in a really close final against GWS, I think it was.
Yep.
But that gave us a lot of belief, and from there it's just been go. I guess we had the ingredients all then, and we got the right recipe, and now we've just followed it every year since. Train hard in the off season together as a group. Come back fit enough that you can get straight into footy rather than running too much, and it's worked every year since.
Before we get a little bit onto yourself, just going back to 23, the GF and the feeling in the room and the resilience that was built from that to lead to 24 where you are now. Is it a pretty clear memory that day?
Yeah, it was. I had my son and daughter there and my wife in the rooms after the game, and you sort of sit down and you feel, now that I've seen both sides of it, which is pretty rare as well, you sort of sit down, there's a few beers around, everyone's quite sombre, and talking to family, hugging each other. That first hour afterwards is very quiet. I had my son and daughter sitting on my lap. There's a couple of good photos where we're just sitting there, and I think I was crying, and they just give me a hug, and that's pretty much a picture that tells 1,000 words. But that was sort of how it was. After that sort of hour or two, you get over it. You start to have a couple more beers, and you start to get together as a group, and everyone disperses. That, I guess, in a way, when you win the granny, there's a lot of people that hang around for a long time, and you're sort of around everyone. When you lose, it becomes just the group of players and coaches together, and we sort of get around each other and go back, have a quiet beer, and life moves on pretty quick after you lose. But when you win, it was a completely opposite. Everyone's in the rooms, it's shoulder to shoulder. There's people you haven't seen in years that are coming in, and they end up hanging around all day and all night. So you get actually less time with the playing boys as mates because there's so many other people around.
Sponsors, board members, CEOs.
It's very different in that
ex-players.
regard. Yeah. Until you actually get back to Brisbane, and I guess by sort of the Mad Monday, where it's players only, that's when everyone actually comes together and just sits down as a group and gets to kind of, I guess, absorb it all together.
Just on the sort of winning and losing in AFL, do you have a recollection of how many games that you've won versus how many games you've lost?
There is some data on that. I
should have done my research.
Myself, Zorks, and that we used to look at that every now and again because there's good spreadsheets on the internet. I think I was at maybe 58 to 60% winning, which significantly improved at Brisbane. That made a huge difference because I won a lot more than we lost when I was here. So I was in the positives. Let's put it.
And do you reckon you learn as much winning as you do from losing?
No, you wouldn't. No, and we've always had the motto, and Fags is really big on this. You either win or you learn. You don't lose. So take that as you will. But when you win, you obviously still learn some stuff with how many cameras are around at the moment, and you can see all the different footage. But winning can mask over a lot of things in a way that don't get exposed until you actually lose. And I think losing a lot of those finals, we learned so much from that. It built up to last year where we obviously just missed out on a granny, and then this year where it all came together. And
then now the decision for you to retire, the next phase for Jarryd Lyons. What are you thinking now at 32? You've got a life ahead of you. You've played an unbelievable amount of football. Your relationship with football now, you want to stay in it, or is it there's a slight inkling in your brain saying I want to start something new?
Yeah, I think football has been life, so I'd be mad to leave it. My wife's from Adelaide, and I spent a long period of time there, and I've got a lot of friends outside of football in Adelaide. So we've made the decision to move back there, and my brother's there playing for Glenelg, and ironically I played 3 years at Glenelg when I moved to the Crows because he used to get drafted out to different teams. They didn't have their own reserves team back then. So, it was a bit of a sort of fairy tale moment. I thought I could have gone back and played at Crows, their reserves club, and pushed to get into coaching and things that way. But I spoke to a mentor of mine. He said in 30 years' time, if you had the opportunity to actually play a season with your brother, because we had 4 years here and we played one practice game together or something like that. He said, if you looked back and you had the chance and didn't take it, how would you feel? And it sort of put it in perspective that I thought, they've just come off the last 2 Samford grand final wins, so they're going for 3 in a row. And I thought, I'd be mad not to just go back and have one more year there. And a lot of people say that once you get out of the system, it's hard to get back in. But I've got some close mates that went out of the system, played, like Michael Barlow, who played at Werribee, coached Werribee, and now is back into head development coach at the Kangaroos. He said it makes you appreciate it more in a way. That you get out, you experience a bit of real life, get a job, do whatever you got to do. Then if you're good enough, you get back in anyway. So that was sort of the feeling of it all. So I've got a job working with New Balance and Belgravia, as a SA community manager. So managing all them in their gear for New Balance, sport gear stuff, AFL or whatever, soccer, things like that. And playing at Glenelg, and my wife's mum lives up there. I've got 2 young kids that we've been up here with, no family other than my sister. So
tough.
We're looking forward to getting back there to let them have a run around with the grandparents so we can get a few things done.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Rekindle the marriage in a way, I guess. Yeah.
I was going to ask about the kids when you had kids as a professional player. How did you go about balancing that? I mean, I've got 3 myself, and it's it's tough and I'm not a professional athlete.
Yeah.
How tough was it?
My wife's a superstar. She's been phenomenal because I guess you move away and as an interstate player, it's completely different to what the Victorians will be used to because they're playing at home maybe 15 times out of the year sort of thing. Yep. So we just, I guess it's something that we never knew otherwise. So I'd be away every second week, hands down. Your fixture comes out, you know when you're going to be away, you know when you're going to be home. When we had
and you'd leave on the Thursday for a Saturday game or something?
Yeah, no, it's normally the day before.
Okay,
and night games you'll come back the day after, but day games you get back and see. Sometimes only one night, two is probably max. But luckily, as a professional athlete, she doesn't need to work either, which is nice. So she can look after the kids and things like that. And it's very tiring. Like one's okay, two's a completely different story. Like I find it. I get an hour or two with them by myself and I'm exhausted. So.
Yep. And then when one of them has gastro and you start feeling ill.
But as an athlete, you've got to leave the house. You can't stay there and support.
So the domain in your head, you kind of...
It's against all that you want is to stay there and help. But then you go, well, if I get it, then the whole footy club's going to get it and it's a disaster. So you sort of go, well, I've got to leave. Or same when COVID was going around, like you couldn't go and see people or we get COVID and things like that. So... it is a completely different environment, and luckily my wife absolutely nailed it, and she was happy and she did really well. And we put a sleeping program in, which our kids have been unbelievable sleepers, which I know as parents is a godsend.
Yep, and you touch a little bit of wood, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they still sleep very well at 5 and 3. So we're very lucky that in the evenings we can wind down a little bit at least.
Are you going to spend more time with them? Is it a conscious effort now?
At the last couple of weeks, I have.
Yep.
Obviously, when you go into work, it's going to be probably more stuff to do work-wise, so I'll see him less, and my son goes to school. But I'm proud that as a footballer, you still get home at a good hour. Like a lot of the time, you're home by 2, 3, sometimes even earlier. So I spent a lot of time with him over the last 3 or 4 years, which has been fantastic. I think it's actually easier to spend time during the week with your kids as a footballer than working 9 to 5 sometimes. So I'll be away a little. I'll be out a bit more doing work, but it's a bit more of a flexible job. I made sure of that so that I can spend some time with them too.
Now I'm going to go on to some characteristic traits, whether you are or you're not. I'm going to start before I do that. In an interview with Paul Roos the other day, we talked about what he thought was his at the top of his game. What he thought was he was better than someone else at. So I'm going to ask you the same question, and he defines it as a superpower. What do you think your superpower was?
As a characteristic
as a
player, or as in a physical attribute, or more of a
more as a player? Like, were you the fastest, most skillful?
As a player, my footy brain was probably something that helped because I was never fast. I was never an elite runner, but I could read the game really well. Football, cricket, those sort of sports, golf, I can read the game really well. That's probably something. If I was fast and could run, I'd still be playing AFL, I reckon. But the ability to read the game quick enough that I don't need to be quick because I can get to the right spots. And then probably on that is I've worked a lot on my hands for a long period of time from when I was a young kid, whether I was wicket keeping or playing with my man. Yeah, so innate ability to touch the ball and use it really well was probably something that I made sure I could do.
As a former lower grade wicketkeeper, I think wicketkeeping does get you involved in the game, obviously. Every ball, so you bowl a spell, you get taken off, you get out, you're out, but wicketkeeper, you're in the game. So you're kind of learning about the game. Yeah. Where did you think you became, where your brain sort of ticked over with AFL, where did that come from, that reading the game and being strategic?
From my old man. He's the same as me. He was never fast, never endurance based, but he was a wicket keeper, really good cricketer and a very good footballer at the same time. And I learned everything from when I was 5 to say 16, 17 off him, and a lot of his mates too. He grew up in a big sporting environment. I think he's a Sandringham VFA Hall of Fame member now, so 150 odd games, premiership player in that regard. So I grew up around a lot of footballers, and he's still coaching lawn bowlers now. Like, he's a really good coach. So sport was just blood. Footy, cricket. I tried baseball, tried everything when I was growing up, and golf as well. I got down to about a handicap of 4. So everything I tried, I was really good at sport-wise. And I put that down to my old man. He's got the same ability to read the game as me. So when we watched the game, we didn't just watch a game of footy. We analysed the game of footy when we were growing up, and he'd watch me play footy, and we'd talk about the game in a way that is more direct about the footy and what you're doing, rather than just watching a game and barracking. Like, he never had a team that he supported, and I kind of felt a little bit the same.
Not even the team he played for, Melbourne.
He did, yeah. He played for Melbourne. I mean, he liked him, but I sort of barracked for St Kilda growing up just because a couple of my mates did, but I never felt fully connected. I liked the game in general. I never actually got passionate about a team, and I think that's probably made a difference as well, because I watched all games, and you watch them with that helmet on of being a coach or
unbiased,
things like that.
cognitive bias.
It's certainly, now that I look back, you never realise it, but it obviously made a huge difference. Yeah.
Did you think or aspire to become a professional sports person when you were growing up?
I would have loved to be a cricketer. Yeah.
Why is that?
I just loved the game. I loved fielding.
Still love the game?
Yeah, I still love the game a lot. I'm looking forward to playing, actually. When
in South Australia? Maybe Premier grade or lower grades?
I don't know if I'd make it back up there, but I played a bit of last man standing here with Luke Hodge, and we had Ryan Harris come in our team, and Cam Bruce plays a lot.
Hopefully off a short run.
Yeah, I didn't even think he bowled in the end. But yeah, cricket was, that was my game until I was probably 16, and I was forced to choose. And I was okay. I could bat okay. I could bowl a little bit. I could wicket keep pretty well, but I could field better than anyone. That was probably my.
How do you reckon you would have gone in this modern day era of cricket?
A lot better,
were you a test
actually.
Player? You think?
Nah,
or you
I would have been very much
swashbuckling opening bat Adam Gilchrist style.
I would have been much better suited to the T20 game with the fielding and the ability just to hit the ball and work it around and things like that. Like I could bat all right, but I could stand at cover and cover point on the boundary and catch everything, had a good throw, and a lot of guys don't enjoy fielding. I would happily be out there for 80 overs on a Saturday.
Yeah, you can chat with your mates and
people stop playing cricket purely because of that long day in the field on a Saturday. I would happily field 40 overs in juniors when I was 14 in the morning and go and play for St Kilda in the afternoon and field another 80.
I miss it. I played many years of 2-day cricket, and just that. I mean, it is a long day now.
It is.
As you get a bit older, but during that time, it was like...
probably one thing that I regret the most, that probably not many people know, but I finished cricket when I was 16 because I took up footy, and that 17-year St Kilda Cricket Club got asked who their best fielder was because Victoria needed a sub fielder, and I wasn't playing cricket at the time, and they called me and said, mate, Victoria needs you to field for him. And I was working at the time and I hadn't played cricket, and I thought... At
the G?
It was at the G, yeah. And they asked me, and I was like, oh, gee. And in the end, I worked and I said no, which I know this is one big, massive... I don't have many regrets, but that's probably one of my biggest regrets.
Oh, you would have loved to have been on the score sheet called court sub, right?
Yeah. Well, you know who the sub fielder was that day, I think, was Michael Beer.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So, and he got a run out from point as well, actually. So that was something that I'm proud of, that St Kilda, I wasn't even playing there, and they said that I was the best fielder. It's come and field. So that was something I regret, but at the same time I thought, geez, I must have made a decent impression. Yeah.
So fielder and wicketkeeper, right?
Yeah, I used to love doing both. I'd do 40 and 40 or whatever.
A couple of direct hits. Yeah. So personality traits. I'm going to start with confident. Are you a confident person?
If you had asked me that 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would have said no.
And that would have been just before coming to Brisbane?
I even sort of started a bit throughout 3 years into footy. When I got to Gold Coast, after that 2016 year where I played a lot more footy, I became a lot more confident in myself. I guess it came with playing footy and that
acceptance of what the AFL was like.
It was a bit like that. I'm a very reserved person.
Okay. That's my next question.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
but so confidence, I mean, it's certainly become, in a trained way, I've become a lot better in that regard, especially doing things like this I would never have done back in the day. I do a lot of public speaking now, working with charities and things like that. Yep. So, confidence now, yes, I would say that's still a little bit, but I would say I'm a lot more confident now than I ever was.
What about structured?
Yes, because football makes you that way. but also know in a way that I'm not fussy. Like, I don't mind. My wife's very structured, so we get along quite well. She does all the structured stuff. I don't mind taking it as it comes, because as a footballer that wasn't in the ones all the time, you're always in limbo up until Thursday or Friday. So you never actually know whether you're going to be playing here, playing there, travelling, not travelling, things like that. So I became, in a way, very comfortable with not knowing things until bang, they hit you in the face sort of stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, I can be structured if I want to be, but I'm quite good at taking things in my stride too.
Retirement brings a whole new level of probably unstructured life, like, because there was a routine, and as a professional player, you knew who you're playing this week, you knew when you're travelling, you knew when you're going to do the sessions and all that sort of stuff. How do you think you're going already in the first couple of months of making sure that there's a routine somewhere, maybe?
The first and hardest bit has been being able to just go, I got to go for a run, when it's not actually my job anymore. And my wife's really good with that. My mum came over the other day and we went for a run together, because she likes being fit too.
It's the first time you've been able to do that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it went a long time. So yeah, it's, in a way, it's been quite nice. You sort of just pick and choose. You're not fully directed on how you got to run and all the tough stuff. You can actually just go for a run, and it's nice. You just run around the streets, do whatever, as opposed to doing the fartleks interval stuff that you've got to do as a footballer. So in a way, that's been quite nice. And it's almost 2 months now, where a bit of time with the family, being able to go and see mates at night, have beers and things like that, where you're very regimented as a footballer. If you're going to have a drink, you might have 20 on a Saturday night, and then that's it. You don't touch another drop, but just having 2 or 3 beers every now and again.
Yeah, because you can, right?
Yeah, you can.
And you're 32, right?
You don't
so
feel terrible.
You're not old, right?
Yeah, you don't feel bad about doing it. And I think the way football is now, it's changed a lot since I started as well, where kids have everyone's just really professional. The whole game is just professional. Everything's, even just having one beer, people won't have one because it's just frowned upon. And like, people take photos and things like that.
Which didn't happen in our day. I've got a question on that, actually. A person coming into the AFL this year, maybe they've been drafted, looking back at your career, what sort of advice would you give them?
I would say don't pick the people that you want to take their opinions on board, because when you get in, there's going to be 1,000 opinions and
noise
there's
everywhere.
A lot of noise. And I reckon I probably took in too much noise early on, because I was playing good footy in the SANFL and I wasn't playing AFL, and then all of a sudden there's 1,000 people giving their opinion on whether you should be picked or why, or what did you do to the coach and all that stuff. And you start to believe it a little bit. A lot of the family start talking to you and saying, oh, geez, you should be in the side, or things like that. And all of a sudden there's 1,000 different angles coming at you. And eventually I just thought, it's not, I'm not playing because it's probably, I'm not doing something not right. So speak to the right people, speak to the coach, speak to your mentor or whatever, and just get a direction and go that way. And I think it took me 4 or 5 years before I did that properly. And lo and behold, I started playing my best footy and played. And
becoming confident as well.
Yeah. I played, I think, 20 games in my 6th year, and that left me on 55 when I left Adelaide. So in 5 years...
11 a game, half a season, basically.
35 games in 5 years. Because AFL games, something like that.
7, yeah.
And because I was in and out, and I just never quite nailed it. And then 20 in that year, and then obviously played a lot of footy since then. So almost 100 and something in 6, 7, 8 years on that. So I think I just picked the right people. Like Scott Camporelli was really good for me at Adelaide. Hard but fair, and I've always been a hard but fair guy. I like that. I don't like to be beat around the bush, and I'll just tell me and I'll go and do it. That's sort of that's probably the motto I developed. But direct feedback's fine. Direct
feedback, you would have got a number of times not being picked, right? And saying you're not good enough. And do you ask why? Is there particular reasons? Do you take that on board, or you just wear it and grin it and bear it and right, I'll be back next week?
Yeah, and I think for me it was always the same thing. Too slow or not fit enough was it. There wasn't much else to it. So when I really knuckled down, had a really good off-season into a really good pre-season, I took those factors out, and bang, I was playing every week. So, that's why direct feedback's great. You got something to work on, it's tangible, you know how to fix it, you can do it, bang. And Phil Walsh was terrific like that. He was unbelievable. Every week he'd sit down with you if you're out of the side. There was 10 guys that were close, and he'd just take them all out for coffee every single week and say, how do we get you in? What do you think? This is what I think. And yeah, he was... Yeah, won the game, lost too soon, because I think he would have been really amazing and would have left a great legacy.
Are you a goal setter?
A soft goal setter, yeah. I like to not look too far ahead, but enough that I know what I need to do in that short period of time, or in the moment, say a training session. Like, I know what I have to do to make sure I can play well on the weekend, or I know what I have to do during the off season to have a good pre-season, to have a good year. But I don't put goals as in things to get to playing footy, because there's so many obstacles that can get you in the way, and getting injured and all that can...
So variables, you're like, okay, I want a goal, and all of a sudden you get bitten by a spider.
Exactly right, yeah. And that ruins my off season, which ruins pre-season, which makes it hard. So,
but in the back of your brain as a Lions camp, I'd imagine any team that they want to win the premiership, right? They want to get to September.
The ultimate goal, yeah.
But then obviously week by week it's like, well, you don't know what the variable brings, whether there's rain or whether there's injuries or whatever it might be. Control the things you can control.
I was just play consistent footy. That was it. So that's the goal. So work back from there. Yep. Have a good off-season into a good pre-season.
Yep.
Do all your touch work, all that sort of stuff, which becomes... You don't even realise it becomes autonomous in a way. Like, you're just doing it every week. You have a really set training plan and things like that, and you don't realise until you retire and you look back and go, yeah, I did that right, or I did that wrong.
Dale Morris said that he used to wear blue jocks every game as part of superstition. Are you a superstitious person?
Yeah, I would have said no, but then I look back and go, I wore the same skins every game religiously until they were worn out. And
so you had to know where they were?
Yeah,
right?
Or they had to be washed and then worn.
Yep.
I'd always have one Gatorade or Powerade, depending on the sponsors were, the night before a game. One the day of.
We've got two sponsors in this podcast already now. Thank you, Gatorade and Powerade.
One the day of, and one the day if it was a day game, or two if it was a night game.
Yep.
And then pasta the night before was always a thing. So simple ones that you could
the same pasta
really
or a different pasta?
It didn't matter too much.
It just had to be.
Sometimes I'd have one and play poorly, and then I'd change it.
All right, okay.
Not often though, but yeah, I prided myself on my consistency. But in a way, I knew that wasn't why I've played bad. And a lot of people make that excuse as to,
I had the lasagna.
Yeah, and I played poorly. Nah,
yep.
I was never like that. I always owned it. I'd own it if I played poorly or didn't do something that I wanted to do. It was never to do with not having a Gatorade or a Powerade or pasta or whatever. It was because something either mentally or physically wasn't quite right. So yeah, I always owned that even if something didn't quite go right, I'd still go out there and play well.
Mm. Some of the other traits from the guests that I've interviewed have come through as a lot of them have been empathetic. Are you an empathetic person?
Yes, I am. And so is my son, actually, which I'm really glad he's got that trait too. I've always looked out for other people in a way, and I guess now that how hard I had it, and I've given a lot back now in a way that I didn't do at the start of my career to people that, especially in that mental health space. I've really enjoyed working in that space, and I would say I am, yeah.
And in terms of that, the stress load of professional sport, where the money is now a lot higher and going higher, like it doesn't seem to stop in terms of the sponsors and the TV rights, etc. The pressure on one from a mental health point of view, as a spectator, seems like it's getting more and harder for each person. Can you talk about your experience and feeling a heap of pressure, whether that ever got to you?
It's funny because it didn't really, because I think as a low, it depends how to describe pick 61, so high, low, I can't remember how they work it. Draft pick, didn't do a lot early. No, I didn't have pressure on me to get there. I think people respected the fact that I grinded my way to get there, and then whatever happened was a bonus. It wasn't expected of me.
You ain't the number one draft pick.
Until probably in my Brisbane career where I was playing well a lot. So if I didn't play well, then you sort of feel the pressure in a way. But I played well a lot that I never played 2 or 3 bad games in a row, which is great. So my consistency was always good. I always tried to give back to the fans. I never tried to be arrogant. I never tried to do any of that stuff. I think when you put yourself out there as that sort of person, you're a lot easier to attack. And I think you can see it with all sports people. If you've got that ego and you've got the out there
personality. Selfish or not, you think? Or like the selfishness comes through a little bit? Like maybe on the field but then also off the field?
Yeah, and people see it. Like, people see right through any bravados and things you put on. I always just tried to be genuine. What you saw is what you got from me, and I guess people resonated with that. And I probably noticed it the most when I left, because I hadn't played a lot of footy over the last 2 years, but God, the fans were incredible, the way they cheered me on grand final day and the messages I received from people and telling, I was very humbled, because I never expected that. I was always just an okay footballer who did some good things for a while, but yeah, it was really special the way people spoke about me. And I guess, I've always been a family man who reserved, keeps to myself, just goes out, plays footy, loves to give back to a lot of kids. I like to do a lot of stuff, clinic-wise or things like that. I think I listened to something Shane Warne said one day, that like someone would always say he'd be the last one out signing autographs and all that sort of stuff when he didn't have to be. And I thought, well, if he can do it and he's the greatest cricketer in the world, then I can give back a little bit. Like, it's not that hard. So, it's something that I've enjoyed over the last 5 or 6 years, because once you play good footy, you have a bit more of a presence to be able to do that. It's not just a 10-game player doing it. Like, you actually respect it. So it's been really enjoyable. And
you're out having breakfast and you're having some family time, and then people come and recognise you. How does that feel?
It's very humbling. And I'll always give them time. Like, they want a photo, they get a photo, or they want to talk, anything like that. And my wife's great like that. She's happy to. And the kids really love it too now. Like, they've started to understand footy, and they come out and watch a lot of VFL games and things like that, or on TV. So, I'll always have time for a photo or an autograph or anything. I think that's the least I can do.
One final question in regards to kids. We're talking about kids playing sport. There's now probably an elevated level of pressure because of the professionalism era and the money at the end and the full-time job that you can become an athlete. There's kids playing for enjoyment, and there's kids wanting to be that athlete. What's some advice that you can give to maybe a younger self now, maybe your 5-year-old, when they start playing a bit of club footy or club sport?
Yeah, I still remember back when I was 15 and 16, I didn't make a cricket side, actually. I made the last 20 and then missed out on the cut, and I was devastated. And Mum and Dad were like, well, there's another one below that you can go and try out for. And I was just like, nah, I don't want to do it. I don't want to put myself out there or whatever. And in the end, they sort of made me go. And it was sort of Hatch Cricket in Victoria, which is the sub-district clubs get a team, but they're all under 15s or something, 16s like that. And played 2 years of that. I actually captained the second year, and I wasn't even going to go down there that first year. And met some mates, had the greatest time of my life doing that. And then I sort of realised that you've got to put yourself out there, even if you miss one, you miss 2 teams, you don't do something you wanted. Like, it's not always going to be smooth all the way through. Football-wise, I was just very average up until under 15. So under 14s, I don't reckon I'd come top 3 in the best and fairest from under 9s to under 14s. 15s won best on ground and grand final. 16s came third, and 17s won the best and fairest. And then all of a sudden, 18s, I was at Sandringham Dragons playing TAP Cup and drafted. Yeah. So from 15 to 18 was the only period I ever thought, okay, I'm good at footy. Otherwise, cricket was life. So there's always directions. You don't want to be just locked into one area.
And I think there's an element of that at the gradings, and you get to 13, 14, people are like, okay, you can't play any other sport, right?
Yeah,
because that's your focus, right? And I feel like, I don't know, as a parent now, you're looking at it going, oh, really? Part of the fun is playing different sports and seeing where it lands.
And you've got to juggle. Like, I used to I'd go to footy training from 5 to 6, and then go to cricket training from 6 to 7:30 and the indoor nets and stuff like that. And I was absolutely exhausted, but I just loved it.
But you loved it, yeah.
So I just did them, and it got to a point, like I was trying out for the under 16 big squad and playing some really terrific footy at 15 as well, or 16. And like, I'm in the MCG nets bowling with players like a couple of guys that actually made it. I think Ash Agar might have been in there, and
98 number 11.
Yeah, Peter Hand. I actually captained Ash in our school cricket team to a premiership. So,
right. He's still playing now.
He's still going. Yeah, I saw him at the airport not long ago. He came up to me and said hello and stuff.
He's got an amazing feat for a trivia question, in terms of the highest score for a number 11 on debut.
Yeah, well,
against England.
Funnily enough, I think it was an Ash's test.
Yep.
And I just kicked 4 on my debut at the MCG on a Friday night, and it was a good laugh actually. So yeah, guys like that I played growing up with cricketers. I played with some really good cricketers. Pete Hanscom was one of my captains at one point. He's played some cricket. So it is nice when you watch other guys go on in different sports and play really well, and you've got a connection with them in that way. And
now in retirement, you can connect with lots of different old mates that you haven't been connected with for a while because of your bubble, right?
And I'm actually in the midst of creating a business with a mate of mine similar like that, where he's a really good business minded old coach sort of guy that we go into offices or go into businesses and talk about a structured program, but have an athlete come in and share their story and things like that. And it looks like it's going to go really well. So
give it a plug.
It's going to be called Moddy Minds. So anyone who's it's going to probably be February next year. Will hopefully come out.
Moddy Minds,
Modern Minds sort of setup.
Awesome.
So, something we've been working on for a little while, and if it gets off the ground, it'll be fantastic. That's a little side project of mine.
Jarryd, thank you so much for coming in and having a chat on the Scoreboard podcast. Very much appreciate your time, and all the best in retirement and the next phase of your life.
No worries. Thanks, Chris. Really enjoyable.